Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and today I have with me Banjo Samurai to talk about gaming, blockchain, and Gala Games coming to the Flare network. So, Banjo, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well, my friend. Good morning. How are you doing?
Very solid. It's nice and sunny out here where I'm at, so looking forward to getting some outside air today on the weekend. But I just wanted to start off, and if for anybody that doesn't know, Banjo Samurai has been part of the Flare community here for as long as I've been, researching it, and has definitely helped me and Mickey with learning different parts, especially about Flare finance over the past 6 or so months. So it's really exciting to have him on, and he has a very special interest in Gala Games. But Banjo, I'll pass it over to you to just tell people kind of where can they find your content, what led you here, and all that stuff.
Yeah, great. So, really, I think like a lot of people, my interest in crypto is way back. Like I'm looking at 2012, and I mean, I was aware, I was adjacent and aware, but I really didn't get serious into it until 2017, like many others. Learned those lessons, those bruises, and those broken bones, and it helped kind of form my strategy this bull run, which is a little bit more just stay away from charts, stop looking at numbers. But within the Flare finance community, like many people, when the airdrop happened or the snapshot happened, rather, that's when I really started to pay attention to what was going on, and I saw just a wide open space of fertile ground related to opportunities for content creation, for getting engaged with other people and other projects. And that really led me to Flare Finance and just getting really immersed into Flare Finance. And I think like many people who engaged in the Flare Finance Discord, they didn't give you a lot of information. So it created this space of people helping other people and really learning together and sharing resources and diving deeper into what was available so it could be explained better. And that led me to, I realized I was answering the same questions over and over, and I'm a visual learner. So I would start to create diagrams and PowerPoints on how different systems worked. And that kind of took off within the Discord and allowed me to become closer to different people within the space. And you gave an example of you and Mickey, and Mickey kind of bringing me into his inner circle to support there and share information and bounce ideas off one another. And that's when I got the idea to kind of take this into something a little bit more formal from a content creation perspective. So I started doing some how-to videos related to Flare Finance. I started recording and restreaming some of the AMAs that were on Twitter that couldn't be recorded or memorialized anywhere. And then also started to get involved in other areas in the space. So Gala Games is one of the areas that I'm very interested in. We've got some private projects that are going on right now behind the scenes that aren't announced that I'm very interested in. And really, I found that there's something to do for anyone here if you have the desire. There's people wanting to create content. There's people wanting to talk about it. There's people wanting to build new projects and work with other people. And for someone who wants to get into content creation, it's just a great time. I mean, a lot of the people who are superstars right now really got their feet wet in the Flare ecosystem, right? So we've got Mickey really blew up. You and Mickey blew up. We had Community Flare who blew up, and just all these different people who are kind of making it their own. So that's led me to be into a bunch of other projects. So I've got my Flare Finance stuff, and once the beta opens back up or we go live, I'll start doing more how-to videos there. I've been doing some NFT projects. I've done one collaboration with an NFT artist, NFT Riddler, and I've got another one that we're working on behind the scenes. We've started a Gala Games Mirandus podcast with a group of guys who are in the Mirandus Guild that I'm in. We saw an opportunity to talk about Gala unfiltered and have a community discussion without the restrictions of the Discord. So my feet are everywhere. And really, if you want to find me on Twitter or YouTube or Discord, just look for Banjo Samurai.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm pulling up on the screen now for everybody watching this video. Banjo Samurai on YouTube. He has some really great Flare Finance videos from a few months ago that helped me definitely in trying to unpack the DeFi space. So if you're trying to learn more, definitely check that out. And then also give Banjo a follow on Twitter at AKA Picker. He's always retweeting stuff and making tweets about Flare Network, Gala Games, all the different parts of the ecosystem. So really great source of information. And Banjo, what is the name of your Miranda or is it Gala Games centric podcast that you're doing? You said.
Yeah, so we just started last Sunday. Our next episode is tomorrow. A group of us who love to talk about the game and love to theory craft and talk about the what ifs and really dissect what the developers are talking about wanted an opportunity to bring the greater community in and have a broader discussion on the game. I mean, we're at the end of the day, we all want to see the game succeed and we want to geek out on it and talk about it. And I've always been drawn to podcasts where they kind of just dissect what's there. So the idea was born with a couple of guys within the guild, and we called it the Mirandus Gentry. Right now, it's being streamed to another YouTube channel called Mirandus Life, but the goal is in the near future to move it to its own channel. It'll be a weekly podcast to start, but there might be some other stuff that we do in between. And really, it's a current events type of podcast. What happened this past week? What are we talking about? Let's talk about our excitement. The hope is to bring other community members in from outside of the guild. It's also the hope to bring in maybe some of the influencer community and or developer community within Gala Games.
Awesome. Well, I think that'll be really nice to have as more with the Gala ecosystem is rolled out over the course of the year. So, highly suggest everybody check that out in the future if you have interest. But let's get into the meat of our conversation now after some intros there. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing we have on the docket is basically gonna get your opinion and information surrounding being a node operator for the Gala ecosystem. What does that mean? What do you have to do, and what kind of benefits are there?
Yeah, so Gala has implemented a system to support their future blockchain network called the Node system or the Gala Node system. And before I talk anything about Gala, I just want to be clear to the community that's listening that I'm not affiliated with Gala. I don't work for them. I'm just a very enthusiastic fan, and that some of the stuff I say is everything is subject to change. Gala is very clear that what's going on in their community is all subject to change, and they're very concerned about putting something out there that's believed to be permanent when it could change. So I just want to be clear that this is all as we know it today.
Yep,
Um,
that's really, really good thing for everybody to know that it's an evolving ecosystem, and we could liken this to what they've done as like a soft launch that's going to be built upon. But yeah, I'll pass it back.
yeah, thanks. So the node system, there's a series of nodes called founders nodes, and the plan is to have 50,000 nodes within the network, and this node system is slowly building into its own personal Gala blockchain. And we'll probably get into that in a little while. But as a node owner, you pay for a license, and they have a graduated payment system for node licenses. Every 100 nodes they sell, the price goes up $100. And Gala is very clear, and I think rightfully so, that these nodes are not guarantees. They are very clear that they make decisions based on the success of the ecosystem, not in the interests of the node holders, and they're not beholden to us as far as making us whole on our investments. So they're very clear that nodes aren't an investment. With the stuff that's going on within Ripple in the community as far as the SEC issues, completely understandable. They're protecting themselves legally, but a lot of the community members struggle with that idea because we have invested our money, right? So it's a semantics game on what the meaning of investment is. So oftentimes there's a lot of back and forth in the Gala Discord about, is this an investment or not an investment? And I stand behind Gala's perspective and why they're doing it. The thing I'll say about being a node holder now that I have the node is you can place it on a Windows in a Windows environment. You can place it in a Linux environment. Some people use their nodes at home on their personal computer. Myself, I use a VPS because I want the 100% uptime and not have to deal with the harassment of managing a computer. And if your node is up for at least 6 hours a day, you'll get a daily distribution of Gala. And that Gala is a set distribution that's distributed equally to the nodes that have been online for 6 days, or 6 hours rather. And so what that means is if there's nodes that are spun down or nodes that maybe didn't make the cutoff, your fluctuation of Gala rewards could adjust, day over day. And for right now, what I would share is I'm getting around 750 to 850 Gala per day, depending on which number of nodes are up. In addition to that, from a forward-looking perspective, the idea behind being a node owner is not only contributing to the ecosystem, but also being a part of all these different games. So, we get the Gala rewards. We'll get random NFT rewards, which are in-game assets. And right now they're talking about other ways to help incentivize the node owners to spin up stronger nodes and also decentralize the network more.
Awesome. And I think I've seen that they are trying to figure out how they can get that node ecosystem involved in a signal provider. Could you share anything that you've read
Yeah.
on that or just kind of the idea behind that?
Yeah, so Gala did release a Medium article that they're now going to be a signal provider on the Flare network. And I won't get into what a signal provider is. I think Mickey and Patty have done a great job of that already. But the way it's described right now, how this will work is Gala node owners will be able to, they'll have a pool of the top performing nodes, and they have kind of some criteria of what classifies as a top performing node, and that's subject to change as well. And they'll pick randomly 10 of those nodes to contribute to a signal provider price feed within the Flare network. And then if that signal provider vote wins that round, those 10 will be distributed some additional Flare potentially. So it's not the whole network that's going to benefit from being a signal provider. It's going to be a series of, or a random selection of out of 100 top nodes on the network that will get that reward.
Okay, so do you think it's fair to say that if you're going to be a node operator that also wants to possibly earn Spark via the FTSO and Gala Games signal provider, that you probably need to plan to have high uptimes on your node in order to, possibly receive those rewards?
Yeah, I would suspect it's high up times, high bandwidth. It's really going to be the top end of the people who are hosting nodes. And I can't speak for other people on what
Yeah.
they're running their systems on, but with every increase in a VPS, for example, you're raising your costs. And at some point, you can't raise your costs past what you're taking in, or it's a losing proposition, at least up front. So I think there's going to be kind of people figuring out what the top 100 is and shooting for that if they want to be a part of the signal provider system.
Cool. I think that's very helpful for people to understand, especially if they haven't purchased a node yet. And that's like one of the reasons that they may want to do so in the future. So I appreciate that. And um, to move on to the next thing, there's not a ton of information around the Gala tokenomics, but from your understanding, can you give a rundown of, what are the use cases? What is the max supply that you're aware of and things like that?
You know, the um, the total supply, I'm actually not quite sure of. I should know this. I know the market cap sits around 57 million.
Hmm.
The price of the token sitting at around 0.007. So it's still an approachable coin for people who are interested in finding some like early adopter. And the reason I call it early adopter for the Gala token is right now we have one game. We have Townstar. They just announced another game. It's a 3x3 tank battle game that's coming. The flagship product, Mirandus, is at least a year plus out. But they've got 16 to 18 games that are in development, either personally or through third-party developers, as far as I understand. And the Gala token itself is really going to be part of that ecosystem. And just by way of example that I've seen provided in their Discord, you picture you have 18 games, you have 18 in-game currencies, and the trading mechanism between those currencies across the different games would be the Gala coin. Um, Now, I did have a back and forth with one of the developers in their Discord, and the Gala chain is a work in progress. They've got different phases. They've done phase one, which is kind of the preliminary piece, and then they got phase two, which introduces some IPFS or storage solutions into the Gala chain, and then they've got a layer three that they're building towards that will look at where the nodes are located, what kind of load they're under, and are they dispersing game assets in a geographic area that benefits the network better than maybe one that's in a different part of the country or world. So really, I would say at the end of the day, the Gala token is really a intermediary between the different games within the systems, but also it will be an on-off ramp for people who need to, swap liquidity from Gala to USDT on different layer two platforms, and really use that to bring the money onto the network. And again, there's so much we don't know because it's still in development. That could change.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And kind of to piggyback off that, so is your understanding that, all the different games will kind of have maybe a themed currency to go with the game? Is that kind of how they're doing it, or do you have any idea on that front?
I think that's what's being discussed right now in their
Mm-hmm.
Discord. And I'm seeing a healthy balance of people who think it should be just Gala is the cross game currency for all the games, and some who feel that there should be some sort of in game currency. What I will share is that what has been said is node holders will be distributed a certain amount of in game currency as part of being a node holder. And all the transactions that go through the network are really, they have to go through the nodes. So they're still working out the details of what the economics look like for the node holders. But it is something that's discussed regularly. It's debated hotly,
Mm-hmm.
naturally, because people who are supporting this ecosystem have a vested interest in what's coming to them, so to speak. So at the end of the day, my hope is that they do have these in-game currencies that are can be cross-traded through Gala. They've also had a recent discussion, and what's really neat about the Discord for Gala Games is the CEO, the community managing officer or CMO, whatever the acronym means. They're very active. They're asking questions. They're responding to answers. A lot of the developers are available on their Discord. And one of the things that was two of the things actually that were discussed recently in relation to node holders and incentivizing them is there was some discussion around node holders being able to get game specific gems and selecting what game they would like to prioritize their node towards or get rewards for.
Mm-hmm.
And those gems could be used, as I understand it, those would be additional NFTs that could be traded or used to maybe improve in-game items and things like that.
Okay, cool.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it would be interesting if they did introduce some kind of like tokenized in-game currency that's game specific, because you could think about, swapping them in the future. Like maybe they could introduce liquidity pools in other ways for people to, earn off the Gala ecosystem for supporting it. But we'll have to see where that goes. And then I do believe I saw on their website that these node holders will, so basically they could possibly rent out their nodes to people in the future. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, yeah. So let me talk about the liquidity pool piece, and then I'll get
okay,
into the
cool. Yeah.
rental piece. So it's interesting you bring that up because we're of the same mind. I was just in the Discord this week talking about the idea of having the ability to stake your in-game tokens, your Gala, or these gems that they're talking about within a liquidity pool, so that those people could earn a piece of the action on swaps, but also allow people to quickly move assets from one game to another. And I think the end goal of the developers on this blockchain appears to be completely self supporting. So not relying on any other blockchains and hopefully with the idea that they have layer two solutions for people to build DAOs and things on top of it. I think they also intend to have a certain degree of smart contracts. As the developer said in chat, he said, we're looking to make this, and I forget the coin number he said, but because there's so many of them right now,
Hmm.
they wanted to make it an NFT on steroids, essentially, is what he was saying. So there's a lot of interesting things they could do with liquidity providing, and I had the idea that since they already have a relationship with Flare Finance, that they use the Flare Finance platform as their liquidity pools for in-game assets. I think it would be a whole piece of Flare Finance that hasn't been discussed, and it would bring Gala to the forefront of availability for people within the community who want to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would really tap into the composability of DeFi. And
Mm-hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the Gala token individually will be part of the Flare Finance ecosystem in some way, correct?
So all I've been able to determine so far, we know it's not going to be an F asset up front,
Yeah,
right? We know that. We know that Gala is going to be a signal provider. We know that we're going to have the ability to mint our Gala Games NFTs on the Flare network. I just don't think we understand the details yet. So I don't know if that's going to be Gala having its own layer two presence to mint, or if they're going to go through another company like Sparkles or somebody else to mint and hold these products. I'm not quite clear on the technology behind it and how they're going to cross chain their NFTs. What I do know is as it was explained recently in the Discord, is the NFTs have to live within your the Gala ecosystem. So I don't know if that's done through something like a state connector on Flare networks. But the idea that we'll have DAOs on the Flare network that allow you to do everything in the game doesn't seem so clear. It seems like they want those NFTs to live on the Gala network to interact fully with the games.
gotcha. That's interesting. And I do know that I don't know how this will work, but Bifrost has advertised that this is the Bifrost wallet is advertising that you can hold Gala NFTs within that wallet, which, whether they're living on Flare in the Gala blockchain that they're creating, it's going to be a multi-chain wallet. So I think that is just one thing for people to note, that that's something you're supposed to be able to do in the future. And I also really like that you're bringing up this thing about DAOs, because one of the issues, and also you said they interact a lot with the community in their Discord, that I have seen with games, and which eventually have lost my interest over the years, is we see a lot of AAA titles that just don't seem to be in tune with what the actual gaming community wants. I mean, it seems like every year, whether it be like Madden or FIFA or Call of Duty or any of those big type games, that they just they don't really answer changes to the game that people would like to see. And to me, it's DAOs possibly around creating games, or just the fact that Gala is kind of asking the community about stuff, I think is a nice step in the right direction. um,
Yeah, and just to add to that, one of the other things that node owners have the opportunity to do that I didn't discuss is there is governance votes. So node holders get the opportunity to vote what games come onto the network. And we just had one this weekend. In fact, there's a 3x3 tank game that they're talking about, and the node holders were allowed to vote on whether the game would be allowed into the network or not. Now, this is a new game, and everyone's excited about it. So far, the vote tallies weigh very heavily in the favor of this new game. But from a DAO perspective, I think the challenge there is Gala appears to want to own completely how the NFTs interact with their network. So, from the Bifrost perspective, I think that as it appears to me right now, the wallet will be able to hold the NFTs. I'm not sure to the degree that it will interact with the Gala network. I haven't seen that
Gotcha. Okay.
yet. So I think it's a storage thing. I think it's not necessarily about an interaction thing at this point. But again, subject to change, things may. The community may demand something that the Gala team feels is appropriate, right? And then as far as the Gala piece on the Bifrost wallet, like the actual coin, that makes complete sense. I saw the picture too, and it had it there. I was very excited. And these are some of the things that were leading me to ask the questions in the Discord, seeing that on the wallet and what can we do with the wallet. As far as DAOs are concerned, and going back to Gala wanting to kind of own their NFTs and how they interact with their network, I think the challenge of a DAO is it's decentralized, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you lose control over how things are done with the DAO. So my hope is that the network that they do build, there are the opportunities for layer two DAOs to somehow work directly on their network. I just don't know if we'll see a Flare DAO having the same impact. And I could be wrong, and I hope I am, because I love the idea of cross chain and cross platform interaction. Just based on some of the feedback that I've heard from their developers, though, they seem to be very concerned that changes on other networks would cause a lot of work or things to break on in their games.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, we'll have to see how that keeps going. And I think this can lead us into the next thing, which is, what exactly is the role of the company, Gala Games, in making decisions and what they're just doing in general?
I think right now you've got a company that's very motivated. They've got a lot of good talent, and they're bringing new talent on. Um, but they want to be the number one name in blockchain gaming. And I genuinely believe that they want to remove blockchain from blockchain gaming, right? They want gamers to come game, and they want the blockchain to be behind the scenes.
Like a
Now,
feature? Yeah.
yeah, it's something that supports the gaming environment, and it's not the primary focus of the environment. And I think that's important because
Yeah.
gamers just want to game, right? They're used to being able to do microtransactions and cosmetics through normal gaming, and I think that's what they're going to expect. The difference is with Gala, they're going to own their assets, and I think the blockchain, it's kind of like DeFi. Eventually, DeFi is going to live so far below the apps that use it that most people won't know what DeFi is. And I think the idea of blockchain gaming in general, with Gala or anybody else, is you want the blockchain to live so far below the gaming experience that people don't really pay attention to it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me is how do you separate the two but also have them working together. So awesome.
Yeah.
And so Gala is they're going to be a publisher of or a creator of games, and then they'll also allow other people to create games that can possibly be published on their ecosystem, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah. Right now, they're currently publishing their own game. I think Townstar is their game. It's kind of a farming sim.
Mhm.
Mirandus, the flagship game that they're working on, is I would call it an adventure sim. It's like a multi-player online role-playing game, but it has so much more depth in the underlying mechanisms and environment. And then they also have, the tank game I talked about as a third party. They have a space game that's coming called Echoes of Empire that I believe is a third party. So they're doing both, and I think that makes sense for a kind of a new product to make your own, so you can kind of maximize the technology as you know it. But if you really want to grow and spend money on development investment, you need people to come, some third party developers to come in with a lot of money, who see the promise of blockchain gaming, and they're bringing people in from EA Games. This is not a company that's just a garage guy, a bunch of garage people hacking away at computers. They're hiring good talent to maximize the first mover advantage they have. There are other blockchain games companies out there, but I haven't seen any that are as serious or as forthright as Gala.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've definitely seen some of the different games that their like head guys have worked on and companies they've been part of. I believe is one called it's called Zynga or something like that. That used to do that Farmville game on Facebook that was really huge. They have like a few of the guys from that company, I believe, correct?
Yeah, the CEO
Yes.
on the Discord, he's been a factor, but he's from the Zynga Farmville
There you go.
environment. And I think if you think about just in-game items and what they're trying to accomplish, I mean, in-game items alone within gaming is a $50 billion market. So there's obviously some opportunity here,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I think that the right company with the right vision and the right developers, and if they build the right community, they're going to be the next, Microsoft of gaming or Amazon of gaming, because there's so much opportunity here.
Awesome. Well, since you kind of touched on a few of the different games, the two that I primarily would like to focus on is Townstar and then Mirandus.
Yeah.
And I want to also parlay this into a discussion around play to earn versus free to play and how that applies to both of those. So we'll start
Hmm.
off with Townstar since it's live. I played this game. I'd probably say I've given it about like 10 hours. I realize it's one of those games that I could actually sit there and watch a TV show and play at the same time. So I like being able to double task with stuff where I don't have to always be 100% focused the whole time. And since it's like a farming strategy sim type game, I think that's really cool about it. One of the issues, and it may just be because I wasn't very good at it yet, was I was finding it really hard to advance past certain points of the game where my city or my town had grown enough, but I wasn't able to build enough of the like auxiliary supplies needed in the game to keep to basically keep all my workers working and have enough gas to do trading with people. So yeah, kind of with that, what has your experience been as far as like are some of those NFTs they sell to like utilize in that game? Are they kind of necessary to advance to the highest or, the farthest you could go? Or is it something anybody could do without having to pay?
Yeah, so I think there is definitely an opportunity to enjoy the game free. It is a game that, if you understand the strategies behind it and the depth of the mechanics underneath it all, you can maximize your time and do well. I think where the NFTs, the paid versions of the NFTs help, is Townstar is a play to win game. There are um, monthly competitions or weekly competitions where Gala pays out real value, they have real rewards, and the people who play in the competitions are the people who are using some of these NFTs to give them a competitive advantage. And I think that's really the spirit of play to win or pay to win, right?
Hmm.
Um, my experience with the game is very similar to yours. I put a number of hours into it and kept having to start over
Yeah.
because I kept getting to the point where I'd run out of gas. And that finally led me to YouTube, to a video or two, to kind of understand how to get past that point. And really, what I found out is that I was going too fast. Every time I had something to sell, I was selling. And instead of, I was burning through my gas before I could make more gas. But once I understood the process to make my gas, I realized I actually had to slow down and not sell so often and allow the town to develop before I was going to go sell. The other thing I think about the mechanics that just fascinates me about Townstar, is there's so many little details that you don't know unless you get online and
Yeah.
people who have figured this game out, like having a farm, or not a farm, but let's say cotton, too close to an ocean plot, you're going to get less production. Or if they kind of have salt hits 5 tiles around, or water hits certain number of tiles around the asset you're putting down. Or you might have a building that blocks the wind of another, that impacts another asset. So it's so in depth, and it's for people who love to geek out on Sims. There is so much there, and people get really competitive about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were some of the things I noticed. Like at first when I was playing, I didn't realize if I put like a wheat farm basically right next to a pond, that it would automatically start watering it instead of me having to get workers to water it. So like that was
Hmm.
something that was very helpful to find out. And yeah, I definitely when I was playing was pushing the limit and how quickly I was trying to go. So maybe I'll have to give it another shot and try a slower path. But it does seem like a game that you're it's going to be very difficult to find out on your own unless you're super like dedicated to it. But we do see a community evolving. There's even like I mean, not like a block explorer, but like like a wiki page for Gala with like a map that was showing you which areas cost the less gas to sell, which is actually
Hmm.
a really big deal if you don't have any of the NFTs. So it definitely is very heavy strategy. It may be difficult for just your everyday person that doesn't game very often to pick it up unless you want to learn more.
Yeah, if you're like a casual sim player and you just want to figure it out over time, you can do that. If you're the competitive type who really just wants to, or maybe you're the person who wants to build the best town ever, regardless of the other circumstances, there's that piece. And then if you're somebody who's competitive, either individually or as a team, these competitions get a lot of hype, and the rewards are pretty big. I don't know the exact number, but when I saw them, I remember being surprised at how good the payouts were.
And is that in the Gala token that they're paying out?
Yeah, they're paying out in Gala.
Cool. So, I mean, that is something if as far as in the future, people being able to make money off games, especially if you're good at it, there's an opportunity for those kind of people right there that's forming. So, I think that's a cool thing to see. And who knows, you could have, whole kinds of streaming going on behind these kind of competitions in the future or things like that that could emerge. So, I think that's kind
Yeah.
of exciting. Yeah.
Well, to that end, I think talked a little. You talked a little bit about playing games for money, and we know very clearly that in other countries where the economics are a little bit different, there are people playing games for money now, and not just the competitive gaming leagues, but I know Axie Affinity, I think it is. I don't know the exact name of the game, but there's another really popular blockchain game that's growing in Southeast Asia. And I was talking to a fellow the other day, and he was sharing what the daily rewards are. And he said for 2 to 3 hours of play a day, you can make $45 a day. And for some countries who have the ability to get in and pass the investment costs, that's a lot of money.
It
That's
is.
survivable income for a lot of people. And I think that's the exciting thing about blockchain gaming is for westernized countries where our expenses are all high, it may not be as lucrative, but you've got entire swaths of the world that takes them out of poverty playing those games. And that's really interesting dynamics there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can just think of one great thing is like, kids spend a lot of time gaming these days. Like, even when I was in high school, so like, 6 to 10 years ago, just about everybody, played video games, whether you were an athlete or somebody that did a lot of studying or did whatever other kind of stuff you did. Everybody that I knew pretty much played games. And so, you think about all that time, like, if you have a kid that they spend playing games and if they have an opportunity to possibly, even if it's not a lot of money, like even if they're earning like $8 an hour, I mean, that's like a job almost. And that's
Yeah.
something over the course of your entire childhood that you could have saved up before you go to college, or you could invest it into blockchain and have like 10 years of that. And sure, it's a little per day, but over time we know how compounding can work. So I think that's a really cool thing too, and one that would have been nice like when I was a kid. If I had that kind of foresight. But
If I could translate all my gaming time over my entire life into, I guess, a residual income,
yeah,
I would be a pretty wealthy person. There
yeah,
is no doubt about it.
I mean, even $5 an hour probably would do you pretty well, especially how easy it is to get sucked into games at times. But
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Well, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's what's exciting. Not only is there a way to, with the pay to play to earn, but also the ability to just sell your assets. If you get tired of one game, you can sell them and go to another game. And I think that's another thing that entices me about blockchain gaming in general. I've earned countless numbers of things in different games and fought for different things in different games over the years. And now they're there. I mean, if I log into an account, they're still there, but I can't do anything with them.
Yeah, nope, that makes total sense. And that'll be really cool if they're able to like transfer all the in-game money that you've earned over into another game on the ecosystem if for whatever reason one dies out, or like you said, you just get tired of it. But yeah, let's hop into the game that I am definitely most excited for, and I think you feel the same way as me, which is going to
Hmm.
be Mirandus. And I know you're trying to say it earlier, so that is considered a what's called an MMO RPG. So that's massive multiplayer online role playing game. And my hopes for this is my favorite game of all time that I probably played is I'd say Skyrim, which is a single player role playing game. I would liken Barandus to it because it's a fantasy style and it's role playing, but it's going to be online. So I'm curious, will from what you've been able to deduce at this point, are people gonna be able to, kinda just go through stories on their own if they don't really prefer with interacting with people when they play online and being competitive, it's more like a leisurely thing for them? And then also, will there be opportunities to maybe have, like, group events where you're competing with different individuals to, like, win awards and things like that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and just to kind of put my gaming pedigree out there, from an MMO perspective, I started my gaming life in MMOs with Ultima Online, which was many years ago. Then that turned into a love of another game called EverQuest that I played for about 9 years. And I'm really ashamed to say how much time I spent in the game playing EverQuest because it's at one point it felt like bragging rights, but now I look back as an older person and say I wasted way too much of my life sitting in that game. But what I'll say about Mirandus is it's the first time I'm getting that feel again. Like this is a game I've got to play, which is what EverQuest was to me, what Ultima Online was to me. I've tried other MMOs in between those. Elder Scrolls Online is probably the most prominent that I got into,
Hmm.
but none of them ever gave me that feel of excitement and discovery, and just what's possible until Mirandus now. So that's the reason I'm really so excited about it. One thing I think will surprise people is Mirandus is where it is in the development cycle. And I think a lot of people, when they hear about games, they expect them to be almost done, um, and so they expect a lot more details. And really, what's going on is we're in an earlier stage of development on this game, and I really don't see it being launched fully until next year, and maybe the year after that. It's hard to say because it is such a complex and novel game, with doing a lot of things that haven't been done before. So what I would say is there's something for everybody as it's been shared so far. So if you are a sim person and just want to farm and grow wheat and turn it into flour and turn it into cakes, there's that opportunity for you. If you want to just be a person who goes out and adventures, you can do the adventuring part and allow other people to pick up the farming and the ranching and the breeding of horses. Um, there's really everything is here, and there's going to be a mobile app, a mobile part of the game, and a desktop part of the game. And as it's been shared so far, they plan to release the mobile part first, so you can start interplay with the crafting and really trying that out, and that will transition into the live game coming down the line. So from a developmental perspective, there's things that are out there, but there's a lot of things that are still undone. And I think the development team is very clear that they don't want to make too many promises because everything is subject to change. And I think that's fair, but it does create some good back and forth on the Discord because people, the stuff we do know about, we want to talk about. We want to just tear it apart and dissect it. And sometimes that feels like there's like a negative back and forth going on when really it's just people trying to express their enthusiasm for the game.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that gets lost in text often, which is kind of why I hate Twitter debates, is because you can't really tell tone or exact meaning like you can in a verbal discussion. So I can totally
Mhm.
see how that happens. But for me, I mean, the potential for Mirandus as a game seems massive from what I have seen from the team so far, especially I kind of liken it. It seems similar to like Minecraft or like Roblox or something like that, and those are super popular. But now
Mhm.
we're adding in a more like I would say like medieval type theme, like fantasy theme, which I think is really great and something that in general gamers enjoy. Um, could you kind of give what's like the gist of like the story behind the game and that kind of stuff, and how you would get started?
So, the game, it really is the baby of a few developers within Gala who have a long history of gaming development and MMOs. So this isn't a team that's just coming out of the blue and
Hmm.
deciding to do this. It is a fantasy medieval world. Not much of the lore has been shared about why they're doing it, but I think the 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 company saw an opportunity to take something that really does have a solid fan base over the years, which is MMOs, and turn it into something that's really big. And I think what most MMO players will find that's new and novel is the depth of the world. So it's really a simulator. Every tree is an NFT that has a life cycle. The when you cut down a forest, it's going to grow back. If you wipe out a herd of deer, they're extinct, right? And or if you've got a great horse that you have raised in your stable, you can breed it with other great horses of other NFT owners and actually have a pedigree of your animals and breed your animals. So there's just so much depth that's going to sit under the surface. And if you think about what we talked with Mirandus, how much there's so much stuff that just supports the game, that's all going to support this game. And just some other examples is if you take your deeds, the land deeds, and encroach on maybe a goblin's territory, they'll attack your deeds, right? So that they really want to make this dynamic world that is a living, breathing environment, and not just okay, I killed this goblin, and if I stand here 10 minutes later, this goblin's just going to reappear, and I'm going to kill him again. Right? There's more to it than that, as at least is how it's being explained.
Awesome. I'm kind of sitting here with a smile behind the screen as you were explaining that, because I think one of the things in the past, which I mean, technology has kind of barred this, but one of the first games I saw with like real that I enjoyed was this one called Battlefield Bad Company, and they let you kind of like, if you shot like a grenade launcher at a building, like that building would, the wall would get taken out and all that kind of stuff, which, for a long time the environments were very static. So even more so with what you're saying, like you could potentially breed two different prize winning horses together and make this horse that's worth like, a lot of in-game cash or something like that. I think that opens, just a ton of kind of mini economies that could happen within the game and different kind of industries and stuff. I don't know if you get that feel, but it kind of seems like that's somewhere it could go.
Well,
Um,
that's what we're planning for, man.
yeah.
In the guild that I'm in, it's a guild called Rome, and we are very clearly identifying what deeds we have, what buildings we have, what exemplars, which are like the higher end avatars they have, and we are planning supply lines and logistics, and how do we as a guild maximize everybody's in-game experience, but also if there is a economic piece on the outside, we want to maximize the guild's economic piece as well. One of the other things that I thought was interesting is going back to the idea of a living, breathing world. Let's say you have a homestead, and a homestead in Gala is a land deed that has like a home, maybe a little plot that you could put a forge on, and one little plot of growing some wheat, right? And if you place it in an environment that is dangerous, or if somebody is running from the biggest monster out there, and he runs it through your village or your little homestead or hamlet, that monster or mob, as we call them, I mean, a lot of people know what that means, but it could tear through and destroy your crops. So there's the idea that the game world can negatively impact your property as long as it doesn't live on the blockchain. And I think what's should be said is some of the assets will be NFTs and they'll live on the blockchain. Some of the assets will not be NFTs, like maybe 10 stacks of wheat, and they won't live on the blockchain until it gets converted into something else. So the idea of like an evil pig coming through your property and eating your wheat is really interesting. It makes you think differently about where you're going to drop your property in the game.
Yeah, and also maybe forming an alliance with a nearby town or something that, let's say maybe there's some kind of monster that your town is just getting terrorized by, but there's also another town that's having the same issue. You could possibly see opportunities to cooperate and have like a raid on the monster's fortress, which I think is really cool. It just seems like they're leaving a ton of room for creativity
Mm-hmm.
and just people making what they want to make of it. It's like a lot of different user experiences could be had.
Yeah, one of the things I'm most excited about is the interplay between the kingdoms or the citadels, but also the interplay between the guilds and resource management. So, by way of example, if you have this guild that found the best grove of ironwood trees, and another guild says, "Wow, we want that," and they set up a deed, maybe an outpost or a homestead right next to it, so they can harvest from it, and eventually you have like these guilds fighting over these resources, or you might have players who are sneaking into territory that might be staked primarily by a guild to take resources. So there's going to be this weird interplay of how different groups of people manage the assets that are in the game. and what kind of dynamic is that going to bring to the game?
Yeah, I think that to me is the biggest question is if in the future, and this may be really reliant on gaming participants, is these people that are clear stakeholders, and own land and own resources and stuff, how easy will it be for people that, maybe don't have a lot of money or anything to be spending within the game, how they can utilize some of that stuff and how expensive the people that own that property will do. Obviously, it's going to be a free market in there, so we'll see how that develops. But I think that's definitely a big question we'll have to see form.
Well, on the podcast that we have, one of the co-hosts also has a Mirandus-based YouTube channel called Mirandus Life. So
Hmm.
if you're looking for more, check out Mirandus Life. It's great videos. But he talks about this as the hero's journey, right? So you've got these deed owners, you've got building owners, people, craftsmen who are going to be working the economy. How do you give the hero's journey to a free to play player, right? And there, Gala is just starting to talk about what the free to pay experience looks like, and I would say that any game system really needs the people who are paying money, right? And
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that they just released a stat recently that said like less than 1% of most assets that are bought for games or excuse me, most of the assets that are bought for games are bought by less than 1% of the players. So you really have a small population of people who are spending a lot of money on a game. And then you have the people who are in between who are probably doing like the microtransactions for cosmetics or something small. And then you have the free to play players. And I think what Gala has shared so far is the free to play experience will be limited. They've announced this relationship with the Opera browser. They're going to be auctioning off a number of what are called, well, we nickname them homeless shelters, but basically they're sanctuaries where free to play players can get a taste of the game and get outfitted with a little bit of weapons, maybe some money, food, things like that, maybe some quests. The whole quest system has not been discussed at any length, so I can't speak to it. But
Hmm.
something that gets them a taste of the game, with the idea that okay, maybe they spend some money on an avatar to kind of get out into the dungeons, because they've already said that the free to play experience at this point in time has some level of gating where you'll be able to get a taste but not get the full flavor of the entire ecosystem. So then you move into the microtransaction group, which probably either a monthly fee, they haven't talked about that, or you buy some assets to get into the full ecosystem, and then maybe you kind of get your hero's journey from there, right? You can go out and maybe take a job picking wheat for a deed owner, or maybe you go out and you hunt meat and sell it to a butcher. So there's a lot of different ways I think the free to play moves into the microtransaction group, and then they become a part of the economy, and that's kind of funneling into the deed owners, the building owners, and they're getting a piece of that.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess my hope is, I think that's fair. They got to make their money. And what they're seeing seems like an extreme version of the Pareto principle, which is like, 20% does 80% of the damage, whether it be like purchasing or just, anything that can happen. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but um, I'm just hoping that it doesn't get to the point where if you want to like have a real legit experience in this game that it's, exceeding like $100 or like going way higher than what you have to pay in games that are, AAA titles that are coming out now. If it's like 10 to 20 bucks to get you a nice starter pack so you can make your journey from there, I think that's totally fine. So we'll have to see. I mean, hopefully they can keep the payment to get in that way down to keep it open to people. But yeah, it seems like that's a work in progress for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be explored there, and there's been some developer comments that have been pretty clear that it's really I can't remember if they said Western or U.S. customers are the ones who are most opposed to pay to play or pay to win. But internationally, other communities are very into it. So apparently, the Southeast Asia gaming community, it's common to pay to win. And in the conversations that I've had with different people around, kind of how do the deed owners and the building owners get compensated? Well, if you don't have a healthy mechanism between free to play before the deed owning group spending money, you're basically just trading money back and forth with one another.
Yeah.
So in order to kind of pull money into the ecosystem, you need a robust um, uh, entryway into paying, right? And there's going to be people who spend $20, $30, and that's all they ever want to do. And then there's going to be people who will spend, they're the people who buy the seasonal packages in different games, and they
Yeah.
spend $50 every season. They haven't really got into those details yet, and I guess at the end of the day, I have to assume positive intent with Gala. I don't think they're a bunch of people looking to rake investors or gamers. I think they're genuine gamers. They love gaming, and they're going to figure it out. And it will make some people happy, and it will make some people unhappy.
Yep, absolutely. Can't make everybody happy. That is a, fact of life.
Yeah,
But
very true.
cool. Well, that I think that's a great discussion around the two main games, at least for now, and we'll see how those other two that are going to come into the fold evolve as well. So the last thing I wanted to have like a more open-ended speculative conversation just around what are your thoughts on the long-term outlook for the convergence of gaming and blockchain and DeFi and stuff like that.
Well, I think we're just at the beginning. I think there needs to be one brand that really brings it into the mainstream, similar to how EA brought, EA Sports and brought so many people to gaming that was something they hadn't done in the past, maybe some basics.
Hmm.
So you need that to really get started. I know there's a number of companies that are working on this, Gala included. We have Forte Games, which we really don't even know what's going on
That's
behind the
very
scenes
true.
there,
Yeah.
which I'm also paying attention to and trying to find anything I can. But I think what I would love to see a future where gaming can be legitimate earning streams for people. I mean, we already are starting to see this with streamers and professional gaming leagues. I think it's time to get the laymen into the space and allow them to earn with their free time. I mean, there's not too many places where you can take a hobby and earn money while you're doing it. And if it can be done in gaming, where you're kind of benefiting from other people's contributions or dollar contributions into the system, and you're getting a piece of it, I think that's fantastic. We discussed a little bit about you know different economic benefits for people in other countries where that might be a decent salary. I mean, we already have I think multiple decades of moving people out of abject poverty. If they could do it through gaming and without too much startup costs or getting having to spend a bunch of money to just have your opportunity cost, if you will,
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's such an awesome way to kind of lift the world up through something that's fun. And the unfortunate thing, and I guess the dark side of that I'm a little bit concerned about, is the idea that there might be, game farms in countries where people are paid a meager wage. So a businessman can make money off of their work, right? I'd rather see the player make the money, not somebody selling a scholarship, if you will, to loan you the assets so you can play and make a lesser wage. That's the dark side of it that I'm curious about. But going past that, I think the idea that you could take real world work and turn it into revenue can go outside of gaming. So maybe you're walking through a virtual mall in a metaverse, and you're doing something in there that's actually productive to society on the outside, but it's just a virtual experience for you on the inside. So I think there's so much that's out there that this could turn into. I think at the end of the day, everyone wants a Ready Player One experience,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it will happen in my lifetime, but boy, it does sound fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm personally somebody I haven't gotten into any of the VR gaming yet. I mean, it's something I would definitely try out in the future. It's mainly just because I haven't been able to justify paying for one, and then just the fear that I could get sucked in. But the thing is, we are moving to a world where it may be we may run into issues with people being able to find jobs if enough automation takes place. Now, maybe that automation creates new jobs. And to me, gaming and the whole metaverse economy could be one of those areas where new jobs are created to replace some of the old bread and butter ones, just whether it's manufacturing and stuff like that, where robots are coming in, or, maybe tellers at banks that may get ruled out with automation and, good enough systems to be able to handle anybody's banking needs. But I think this is an opportunity to build, new work for people in an online setting. And, with COVID happening last year, I think we saw more than ever that the world is able to move to, more strictly online and digital work than before, and still make it happen. So I think this is like a excellent place. And one of the things for me that I really hope happens is we can bring down these system barriers where they make sense and add interoperability more so into games, which is starting. With things like Fortnite introduced cross platform play, as well as I think some of the newer Call of Duties have done that as well. So I like that we're starting even to see some of the like centralized AAA game title companies moving in that direction, because I've always been a PlayStation guy growing up. I just that's what I liked, and all my friends use Xbox for the most part, so I've been largely cut off from playing any games with my friends, and I just hopefully blockchain being added in with gaming and more openness will kind of steer us in that direction too.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with the automation piece, and I think automation is going to lead to a growing unproductive, I guess, portion of society, right? As more and more entry level jobs are being um, taken away by automation, and I think what you're describing, at least as I'm interpreting it, is you're kind of describing bread and circus, right? We're going to keep the masses calm by giving them bread and circus through
Yeah.
blockchain gaming, where you can earn some income, be entertained, and not pay attention to maybe some other stuff that's going on. The thing you mentioned about VR, and that I think it's fair in mentioning here is there has been talk about Mirandus being some sort of VR um, title potentially. It's loosely talked about and it's brought up every once in a while, but I think it would be a great game to move into that space.
Yeah.
And different VR experiences, you have your first person experience, which sometimes can be disorienting for some people. And then you have your 3/4, top down view, which is probably a little bit more approachable in a VR space. There's a game that I've played with my family called Moss that kind of just nails the 3/4 view VR experience. But if we take blockchain gaming past that and we move it into something like an alternate reality game where you've got your Google glasses on, and then all of a sudden you're in the real world playing a blockchain game that only pops up on your glasses, or moves you into a mixture of the real world and the metaverse. There's so much potential with gaming and what we can do. A lot of times it's easy to see all the downsides of technology advancement. But in the realm of gaming, there's so much positive potential there.
I'm really glad that you brought up the augmented reality portion, because the one game that I think would be so perfect to be put on blockchain is Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if if you have any kids, or you've ever played Pokemon over the years. They came out with that Pokemon Go game where you can have your phone and it uses your camera to look into the real world, but then it'll have a Pokemon avatar pop up and you can catch it. And now they've expanded that game to where you can take the Pokemon you caught on the mobile app and move them into a game where you can battle your Pokemon and trade them and explore like the gaming universe that they've created. But for me, like if you could turn, imagine if you took a Pokemon game that uses some augmented reality, and for the rare Pokemon, maybe there's only 100 of them available in the entire world. And they could all be NFTs that can be bought, sold, traded with other people. It gets people outside and walking around. And then you could even maybe battle them through your phone in the future, or your Google Glass, or bring it back into the game. I just feel like that I loved playing Pokemon as a kid, but I just feel like that would be such a cool thing to do in the future, and that at least brings people from being inside maybe in a VR headset all day into a world where, okay, you're getting outside, but you're also taking advantage of the technology that's available to us too.
Yeah, two things on that. One, I think you just solved the obesity problem. Get people
Yeah, no, for
outside,
real, that's
uh,
very possible.
chasing in-game components.
Yeah.
And I did play Pokemon briefly, and the company that I work for also was involved in like I forget what they call them, the star areas or the places that produced more Pokemon or something like that.
Oh, yeah, they're like little pop-ups on the map you have, and you can
Yeah,
go and get them. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that if I think about the potential of alternate reality gaming, think about the data analytics of an entire globe moving around the world playing a game, and what you could learn from that type of movement, or how maybe you could, well, this sounds really out there, but how do you move a population away from a certain area through a game, right? Like if you have a portion of this population playing this game, and you need to move them in real time out of a certain geography, can you do that without telling them why, just through the game? There's just so many weird things you could do with the alternate reality stuff that hasn't even been talked about yet.
Yeah, there's it's like people say with AI how scary it is, but then I've also seen um, the good cases for it where it can be beneficial and it can be done right. I think with a lot of these advancements we're going to have, whether it be in blockchain, gaming, data analytics, that it's really going to be what people make of it. So, I think as long as we have people out there that are continuing to put their best foot forward and try and implement these technologies in the right way, there's definitely hope for a future where technology is almost seamlessly integrated with our lives, even much more so than today.
Yeah, I agree. It's only a matter of time. It's one of those things where, um, I've had a very successful and happy life, but I wish I had, another 100 years to really see what's going to happen, because it's so exciting with the potential of all this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have this weird thought in my head since I was born in 96, is that I could possibly live in three different centuries, which I don't think,
Yeah.
barring anything terrible happening to me or some catastrophic event, I think with advances in technology and medical technology, I think it's very possible that I could, live to 100 if the world, doesn't lose its mind. But being a young person, I do have a lot of like, I'm very interested and curious to see what happens with all this stuff. And hopefully I'm around to kind of see what comes, whether it's good or bad. I think there's a lot of excitement around it. And especially like Gala Games being one of the first huge steps into blockchain gaming. But I think this is a good point to wrap it up. We've actually talked for a long time. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up, or you think you got everything?
No, I think I got everything, man. I appreciate you having me on. Again, this is an exciting world we're going into with Gala Games, but again, all subject to change. That they're very clear about that on their Discord. If you're looking for me one more time, it's on YouTube, Twitter, and Discord. I'm Banjo Samurai. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I have people behind the scenes reaching out for questions all the time. I love to help people and just kind of wax flare network and gaming with people. So thanks, Patty, for the opportunity. Really love what you're doing with Mickey with the DeFi standard. It's definitely one of the most premier information sites on DeFi and Flare that I've seen, and you guys are doing great work.
I really appreciate that. And I think I definitely want to get you back on maybe when we get the Flare Finance beta up and running. Maybe we can have some conversation just around like, what are our thoughts and different ways to utilize the platform if that's something that would interest you.
Yeah, I would love to. I've got my strategy. I mean, I know in my mind what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It's really about how stable the systems are, and how other people's strategies, because you have can go in with the best strategy, but if everyone else is doing it, it may not be the best strategy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I have many thoughts on different ways to tackle it, and just take advantage of where rates are doing better than others, and maybe
Hmm.
being willing to move at times. So it'll be very interesting as this all starts to roll out. But yeah, to end it up, thank you so much, Banjo, for coming on. And this is the DeFi Standard, and we are out. See you guys.